Hey guys, Jake here, along with Foxy. Just wanted to say hi. Today we're going to be reading chapter 22 of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the Yule Ball. I think we'll jump right in. Despite the very heavy load of homework that the fourth years had been given for the holidays, Harry was in no mood to work when term ended and spent the week leading up to Christmas enjoying himself as fully as possible, along with everyone else. Gryffindor Tower seemed hardly less crowded now than during term time. It seemed to have shrunk slightly, too, as its inhabitants were being so much rowdier than normal. Fred and George had a great success with their canary creams, and for the first couple of days of the holidays, people kept bursting into feather all over the place. Before long, however, all the Gryffindors learned to treat food anyone else offered them with extreme caution, in case it had a canary cream concealed in the center. And George confided to Harry that it had worked so well, he and Fred were now working on developing something else. Harry made a mental note never to accept so much as a crisp from Fred and George in the future. He still hadn't forgotten Dudley and the 10-tongued toffee. Snow was falling thickly on the castle and its grounds now. If only Fleur Delacour seemed to be able to find anything to complain about, it was so perfect. "It is too heavy, all this Hogwarts food," they heard her saying grumpily as they left the great hall behind one evening, Ron skulking behind Harry, keen not to be spotted by Fleur. "I will not fit into my dress robes." "Oh, there's a tragedy," Hermione growled as Fleur went into the entrance hall. "She really thinks a lot of herself, that one, doesn't she?" "Hermione," said Ron abruptly, "who are you going to the ball with?" He kept springing this question on her, hoping to startle her into a response by asking it when she least expected. However, Hermione merely frowned and said, "I'm not telling you, you'll just make fun of me." "You're joking, Weasley," said Malfoy behind them. "You're not telling me that somebody asked that to the ball. Not the long-molared mudblood." Harry and Ron both whipped around, but Hermione said loudly, waving to someone over Malfoy's shoulder, "Oh, hi, Professor Moody." Malfoy went pale and jumped backward, looking wildly around for Moody. But he was still up at the staff table, finishing his stew. "Twitchy little ferret, aren't you, Malfoy?" said Hermione scathingly, and she, Harry, and Ron went up the marble staircase, laughing heartily. "Hermione," said Ron, looking sideways at her, suddenly frowning. "Your teeth." "What about them?" she said. "Well, they're different, I just noticed." "Well, of course they're different. Do you expect me to keep the fangs Malfoy gave me?" "No, I mean they're different now as to how they were before he put that hex on you. They're all straight and normal-sized." Hermione smiled mischievously, and Harry noticed it too. It was a different smile than the one he remembered. "Well, when I went up to Madame Pomfrey to get the teeth shrunk, she held up a mirror and told me to stop her when they were back to how they normally were," Hermione said, "and I just let her carry on a bit." She smiled widely. "Oh, look, Pigwidgeon's back." Ron's tiny owl was twittering madly on top of the icicle-laden balustrade, a scroll of parchment tied to his leg. People passing him were pointing and laughing, and a group of third-year girls paused and said, "Oh, look at the wee owl, isn't he cute?" "Stupid little feathery git," Ron hissed, hurrying up the stairs. "You bring letters to the person. You don't hang around just to show off." Pigwidgeon hooted happily, his head protruding over Ron's fist. The third-year girls all looked very shocked at Ron's outburst. "Clear off!" Ron snapped, waving the fist holding Pigwidgeon, who hooted even more happily as he soared through the air. "Here, take it, Harry," Ron added in undertone as the third-year girls scuttled away, looking scandalized. He pulled Sirius's letter off Pigwidgeon's leg. Harry pocketed it, and they ran back to Gryffindor Tower to read it. "Dear Harry," it read, "congratulations on getting past the Horntail. Whoever put your name in that goblet shouldn't be feeling too happy right now. I was going to suggest a conjunctivitis curse, as the dragon's eyes are at its weakest point." "That's what Krum did," Hermione whispered. "But your way was better. I'm impressed." "Don't get complacent, though, Harry. You're the only one who's that young of the four, and whoever put you in for the tournament now has plenty of opportunity if they're trying to hurt you. Keep your eyes open, especially if the person we discussed is around, and concentrate on keeping yourself out of trouble. Keep in touch. I want to hear about anything unusual. Sirius." "He sounds exactly like Moody," said Harry quietly, tucking the letter away in his robe. "Constant vigilance! You think I walk around with my eyes shut, just dipsy-doodling off the walls. But he's right, Harry, said Hermione. You still have 2 tasks to do. You really ought to look at that egg, and start working out what it means. Hermione's got ages, blithered on Ron. Game of chess, Harry? Yeah, okay, said Harry. Then, spotting the look on Hermione's face, he said, Come on, how would I even concentrate with all this noise going around? I won't even be able to hear the egg over this lot. Oh, I suppose not, she sighed, and she sat down to watch their chess match, which culminated in an exciting checkmate of Ron's involving a couple of recklessly brave pawns and a very violent bishop. Harry awoke suddenly on Christmas Day. Wondering what had caused his abrupt return to consciousness, he opened his eyes and saw something with very large, round, green eyes staring at him. Dobby! Harry yelled, scrambling away from the elf so fast he nearly fell out of bed. Don't do that! Dobby is sorry, sir! Squeaked Dobby anxiously, jumping backwards with his long fingers over his mouth. Dobby is only wishing to wish Harry Potter a Merry Christmas and bring over presents, sir. He did say Dobby could come visit, sir. It's okay. It's okay, said Harry, looking around and breathing rather faster than usual while his heart returned. Just shake me on the shoulder or something in the future. Don't bend over me and hover like that. Harry pulled the curtains back, took his glasses from his bedside table and put them on. His yell had woken Ron, Seamus, Dean, and Neville. All of them were squinting through the gaps in their own beds, heavy-eyed and touzle-haired. Somebody attacking you, Harry? Said Seamus sleepily. No, it's just Dobby, Harry muttered. Go back to sleep. No, said Seamus. Presents! Ron, Dean, and Neville scrambled out of bed, aware that they may as well get down to present opening too. Harry turned back to Dobby, who was now standing nervously next to Harry's bed, looking worried that he'd upset Harry. Can Dobby give Harry Potter his present? He squeaked tentatively. Of course you can, said Harry. I've got something for you too. It was a lie. He hadn't got anything for Dobby at all, but he quickly opened his trunk and pulled out a particularly knobby, rolled-up pair of socks. They were his oldest, foulest pair, mustard yellow, and had once belonged to Uncle Vernon in a different decade. The reason they're extra knobby is that Harry had been using them to cushion his sneakoscope for over a year now. He pulled out the sneakoscope and handed the socks to Dobby, saying, Sorry, I forgot to wrap them. But Dobby was utterly delighted. Socks are Dobby's favorite, sir! Favorite! I have 7 now! But, sir! He said, his eyes widening, having pulled both socks up to the highest extent, so they reached the bottom of his shorts. They've made a mistake, sir! They've given you 2 of the same! Ah, no, Harry. Why didn't you spot that? Said Ron, grinning from his own bed, which is now strewn with wrapping paper. Tell you what, Dobby, here you go. Take these 2, and you can mix the 4 of them up properly. And here's your sweater. He threw Dobby a pair of violet socks he had just unwrapped, and his hand-knitted sweater from his mother. Dobby looked overwhelmed. Sir, friend of Harry Potter, you is kind, he squeaked. Dobby knew Sir must be a great wizard, as he is Harry Potter's greatest friend, but Dobby did not know that he was as generous of spirit as nobody. They're just socks, said Ron, who had gone slightly pink around the ears. Wow, Harry. He just opened Harry's present, a Chudley Cannon's hat. Cool. He jammed it on his head, where it clashed horribly with his hair. Dobby now handed Harry a small package, which turned out to be socks. Dobby is making them himself, sir, the elf said happily. He's buying the wool out of his wages for his friends. The left sock was bright red and had a pattern of broomsticks upon it. The right sock, was rather green and had a pattern of snitches, red inscribed. They're really, well, thanks, Dobby, said Harry, and pulled them on again, causing Dobby's eyes to leak with happiness. Dobby must go, sir, said Dobby, and he hurried out of the dormitory, waving goodbye to Ron and the others before he passed a puddle of joy. Harry's other presents were much more satisfactory than Dobby's odd socks, with the obvious exception of the Dursleys, who had hit a new low with their gift, which consisted of a single tissue. Harry supposed that they were remembering the Tun Tung Toffee of Dudley. Hermione had given Harry a book called Quidditch Teams of Britain and Ireland. Ron gave him a bulging bag of dung bombs, Sirius a handy penknife, and Hagrid a vast box of sweets, including all of Harry's favorites, Bertie Bott's every flavor beans, Trouble's best blowing gum, and of course, fizzing whiz-bees. There was Mrs. Weasley's usual package, including a new sweater, green, with a picture of a dragon on it. Harry supposed Charlie had told her about the horntail, and a large quantity of homemade mince pies. Harry and Ron met up with Hermione in the common room, and they went down to breakfast together. They spent most of the morning in Gryffindor Tower, where everyone was enjoying their presence, then returned to the Great Hall for a magnificent lunch, culminating in at least 100 turkeys and Christmas puddings, as well as various other dishes spread everywhere. "What?" said Ron, after dinner had wrapped up and Hermione wound her way back in. "You need 3 hours to get ready for the ball? It's only 5 o'clock. Who are you going with?" he yelled after Hermione as she trailed up the stone steps. There was no Christmas tea today, as the ball included a feast itself. So at 7 o'clock, when it had become hard to see outside, the others abandoned the snowball fight on the commons and trooped back to Gryffindor Tower. The fat lady was sitting in her frame with her friend Violet from downstairs, both of them extremely tipsy, boxes of chocolate liqueurs littering the bottom of her picture. "Larry fights, that's the one!" she giggled when they gave the password and swung forward to let them inside. Harry, Ron, Seamus, Dean, and Neville changed into their dress robes up in their dormitory, all of them looking quite self-conscious, but none as much as Ron, who surveyed himself in the long mirror in the corner with an appalled look on his face. There was just no getting around the fact that his robes looked more like a dress than anything else. In a desperate attempt to make them look more manly, he used a severing charm on the ruff and the cuffs. It worked fairly well. He no longer had lace flying all about, though he hadn't done a very neat job, and the edges of his robe still looked depressingly frayed as they set off downstairs. "I still can't work out how you two got the best-looking girls in the year," muttered Dean. "Animal magnetism," snarled Ron gloomily, pulling stray threads out of his cuffs. The common room looked strange, full of people wearing different colors instead of the usual mass of black. Parvati was waiting for Harry at the foot of the stairs. She looked very pretty indeed, in robes of shocking pink, with her long dark hair braided with gold and gold bracelets glittering around her wrists. Harry was relieved to see, for once, she wasn't giggling. You look nice," he said awkwardly. "Thanks," she said. "Padma's going to meet you in the entrance hall," she added to Ron. "Right," said Ron, looking around. "Where's Hermione?" Parvati shrugged. "Don't know. Shall we go down, Harry?" "All right," said Harry, wishing he could just stay in the common room. Fred winked at Harry as he passed him out of the way. The entrance hall was packed with students, all milling about, waiting for 8 o'clock when the doors to the Great Hall would be thrown open. Those people who were meeting their partners from different houses edged through the crowd, trying to find one another. Parvati found her twin sister Padma and led her over to Harry and Ron. "Hi," said Padma, looking just as pretty as Parvati in robes of bright turquoise. She didn't look enthusiastic about having Ron as a partner, though. Her dark eyes lingered on the frayed neck and sleeves of his dress robes as she looked them up and down. Hi," said Ron, not looking at her directly, but staring around at the crowd. "Oh, no!" He bent his knees slightly and hid behind Padma as Fleur Delacour passed. When they had disappeared, Ron stood straight again and stared over the heads of the crowd. "Where is Hermione?" he said again, looking right and left. A group of Slytherins came up the steps from their dungeon common room. Malfoy was in front. He's wearing dress robes of black velvet with a high white collar, which in Harry's opinion made him very much look like a vicar. Pansy Parkinson was in frilly robes of pale pink clutching Malfoy's arm. Crabbe and Goyle were both wearing green. The color over their black shirts made them look like moss-colored boulders, and neither of them, Harry was pleased to see, had managed to find a partner. The oak front doors opened, and everyone turned to look as the Durmstrang students entered with Professor Karkaroff. Crumb was at the front of the party, accompanied by a pretty girl in blue robes that Harry didn't know. Over their heads he saw an area of lawn right in front of the castle had been transformed into a sort of grotto full of fairy lights. meaning hundreds of actual living fairies were sitting in the rose bushes that had been conjured there, fluttering over statues of what looked like Father Christmas. Then Professor McGonagall's voice called out over the din, "Champions over here, please!" Parvati adjusted her bangles, beaming. She and Harry said, "See you in a minute," to Ron and Padma, and walked through, the chattering crowd parting. Professor McGonagall, who was wearing dress robes of red tartan, arranged with a rather ugly wreath of thistles around the brim of her hat, told them to wait on one side of the doors while everyone else went inside. Then they were to enter the great hall in procession when the rest of the students had been seated. Fleur Delacour and Roger Davies, her date, stationed themselves nearest the doors. Davies looked so stunned by his good fortune having Fleur for a partner, he simply stared at her. Cedric and Cho were close to Harry too. He looked away from them so he wouldn't have to talk with them. Instead, his eyes fell on the girl next to Crumb. His jaw dropped. It was Hermione. I think we'll leave it there for the night. Hope you guys are doing well, and I'll put a couple more up tomorrow in which we see what actually happens at the ball. Bye, guys.